Friends on TikTok. Hello, friends on YouTube. My name is Tara. For those who don't know me, I am a professional singer based in New York City, as well as a music educator, voice teacher, yoga instructor, all the good things. I consider myself a holistic music teacher, and I have daily offerings throughout the week for free music education. I learned when my content creation journey started about a year ago. It became quickly apparent to me how inaccessible music education, quality music education is to the general population. So I'm on a mission to change that. So today is a Music Theory Monday, and we are going to be talking about inversions with major triads. And we learned how to build major triads a couple of weeks ago. So if you need a foundational understanding of what a triad is and how to build it, you're going to want to go to YouTube. I have a Music Theory Monday playlist, and you can watch back the Music Theory Monday from 2 weeks ago. That'll help you have a deeper understanding of what a major triad is and how to build it. I will review it briefly today, but we're going to spend more of our time focusing on inversions. So all of these live offerings that I offer on TikTok and YouTube are automatically reposted to my YouTube page under the appropriate playlist. We have Music Theory Mondays, Ear Training Tuesdays, Warm-Up Wednesdays, Free Voice Lesson Thursdays, and Frequency Fridays. Frequency Fridays are like the soul piece of music making, confidence building, nervous system regulation, and just like deep conversations about how tricky it can be to put yourself out into the world in this way and to use your voice in this way. So each week they're scheduled on my profile. So if you're interested in pre-registering for any of these, you can check out my TikTok profile or my main page on YouTube, and you'll see the times that each of these offerings are scheduled for this week. Okay, the times do change from week to week, and that's partially because I'm a freelancer, but also because I want people from all over the world to be able to tune in live. So check out the live events or the lives that are pre-scheduled in my bio. All right, so today we're going to be talking about inversions. Why are inversions important for harmony work? They're important because sometimes when we harmonize, a chord can be kind of built on its head, like in a different way. And that changes the musical intervals that we sing when we're trying to harmonize. And so much of my platform is teaching people how to sing vocal harmonies. So there are, many positions for a chord to be in, but when we first start playing a chord on the piano, it's in what we call root position, right? It means that the root or the one of the chord is on the bottom. Let's take it even a step back. What is the one of the chord? A chord, I'm actually going to use the word triad. A triad is a chord that contains 3 pitches. I'm going to break this down slowly, and if there's any questions, please drop them in the comments. This is for you. So there are no stupid questions. There's no judgment here. If anything I say confuses you, or if I use a word you don't know, please leave it in the comments. I'm here to teach. I'm here to share my knowledge, and I'm happy to expand upon anything that I say. So thank you for all the likes. Welcome. I'm happy you're here. Hello. Okay. So when we are wanting to build harmonies in Western music, we often use something called a triad. Okay. A triad is a chord that contains 3 pitches. Think of other words with the prefix tri, T-R-I, right? Triangle, triumvirate, right? 3. Tri means 3. So chords can have more than 3 pitches, but a triad is a chord that has exactly 3 pitches. Does that make sense? And so when we build a triad, today we're specifically going to talk about major triads, okay? When we build a triad, we have a 1, a 3, and a 5, okay? The 1 is the bottom, the first note in our chord. It can also be called the root, okay? And then on top of that root, we're going to build the rest of the triad. So after the 1 comes the 3, and then the 5. Okay? And a major chord sounds consonant, like this. So today we're talking about inversions. What does an inversion mean? I'm going to pull out my iPad with my keyboard here so that you all can have a visual. But I also highly recommend that if you are going to hang out for a minute and follow along, that if you don't have a piano or a keyboard in your home, that you go to virtualpiano.net on a browser. I'll put it in the comments here on YouTube since we don't have the backdrop on YouTube. It wouldn't work for me today. Sorry about that, friends. Okay. So either go to virtualpiano.net on a browser, or if you have an app, right? There are lots of free apps available with keyboards for iPhone, hi Yukimo, and Android. So this one is, the one that I have here on my iPad is unfortunately only for iPhone. I love it so much because it has the note names and the octave numbers on it. I have not been able to find its equivalent on Android. If anybody knows and could drop it in the chat, I'd be very appreciative. But any free keyboard app will do. This one for iPhone is by Impala, I-M-P-A-L-A. Okay? So when we're building a chord, like I was just doing, let me come closer and show you. We have, I'm going to start on a C here, okay? If you're on virtualpiano.net, a C is the lowercase t. So you can type a lowercase t if you're on a computer and it'll sound a middle C, okay? So I'm going to start on C. So because I'm choosing to start on C, this becomes my 1, the base of our chord, the root of our chord, okay? And then we have to build. So we'll have an E or a 3, okay, and a 5. 1, 3, 5. Now, if you were here for our music theory lessons a couple weeks ago, you remember how to build a major triad. We use a formula consisting of half steps, or also known as semitones, right? Half steps and semitones are interchangeable language, okay? That's something that is just unnecessarily confusing. So you're gonna hear me use half step, but if you were taught or are familiar with the word semitone, they mean the same thing, okay? It simply means that we go from one key to the next without skipping anything, right? It's chromatic, okay? So I'm going to briefly review how to build a major triad in root position, okay? And if you need a deeper understanding of this, you can go to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I'm new on YouTube. Same handle at Resident Harmony Nerd. You can also go to my link tree, and that will take you to my YouTube if you're not on YouTube already, okay? And you're going to want to go to the playlist for Music Theory Mondays and watch the session on building major triads from 2 weeks ago, okay? In the description, it has the topic for each thing. So, when we build a major triad, we are putting a major third, the musical interval of a major third on the bottom, and the interval of a minor third on the top. And when we play the major third and the minor third at the same time, we get a consonant major chord, okay? We consider this happy sounding in Western music. All right? And how do we know what a major third and a minor third looks like? That's where the formula comes in, okay? Because if I were to build my major chord, let's just say starting on this note right next door, do you see how I needed that black key in the middle? How would you know when to use a black key and when not to? That's where the formula comes in. So we can start on any note, literally any note you want to, and this will create a major triad. So let's start on C just as an example to get it in your brain. We count 4 half steps from our starting pitch to find a major third, okay? So our starting note, which right now is my C, which is my 1, which is my root, right? All interchangeable language in this moment. This becomes 0. I do not include it when I'm counting my 4 half steps. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I know the E is my 3, okay? And I started on the C, so that's my 1. How do I find the 5 from the 3? Well, I start on the 3 and I count 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. So now I have all of the ingredients for my major chord. Okay, let's do one more example of that. And then if you need a deeper understanding, you can go ahead and watch the video from a couple of weeks ago on YouTube, the live replay, okay? Let's build one. Let's build one on, we're going to start on E this time, okay? So find an E on your keyboard. And first we're going to build a major third above, which is 4 half steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm on this black key. That's the middle key of these 3 black keys in a row. It's known as a G sharp. It can also be called an A flat, but since we're in the key of E now, we're going to say it's a G sharp. Okay. Now from the 3, which is this G sharp we just found, we have to count 3 more half steps in order to find our 5. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? So I started initially on an E. I counted 4 half steps to find my 3, which is a G sharp, and then I counted 3 half steps to stack my minor third on top of my major third, and I found this B. So do you hear how it has the same quality? The quality is major to this chord that we built down here, okay? So today we're talking about inversions, but before I move on from root position triads, which is what we just built, root position major triads, okay? Before I move on, can I answer any questions for anyone? Hi, Val. Nice to see you too. I was late today too. I had a heck of a time getting my streaming software to work, and ultimately it didn't work. So we're just rolling with the punches. I definitely need a class on how to stream. I'll have to find somebody. I bet there's plenty of information on it on YouTube. I just have to find accurate and up-to-date info. So nice to see you here. All right. Any questions? I'll give it one more minute before we start actually inverting chords. Okay. So when we build a chord, we just built it in what we call, I'm going to retrace my steps and change my language. When we build a triad, right? Because remember, all triads are chords, but not all chords are triads. A triad only has 3 pitches, and a chord could have 4 pitches, 5 pitches, 3 pitches, 9 pitches, right? The possibilities are really endless for how many notes a chord can have, but a triad only has 3. Make sense? Okay? So when we're inverting a triad, there are 3 positions that a triad can be in. Okay, a triad can be in its root position, and we just spent time building our root position C major chord. Okay, so this is root position. There's the next thing we can do is we can mix up the order of these notes. So we're still playing a major triad, but we're going to flip it on its head. And that's going to change what we call the voicing of the chord. So it's going to have the same quality, but the order of the notes is going to change. So it remains the same triad, it just is voiced differently, so it sounds a little bit different to the ear. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to slide my keyboard down a little bit so you can see my whole octave of from C to C here. Okay, I'm starting on C4. And I'm going to build that C major triad that we worked on just a minute ago. So what happens if I take the C, which is my 1, my E is my 3, and my G is my 5. I found those by using my formula to build a major triad. What happens if I take my 1, which happens to be my C, and instead of putting it on the bottom, I put it on the top. So now the 3 is on the bottom, the 5 is in the middle, and the 1 is on the top. Same chord, different voicing. Listen to the difference. Pretty cool, right? This is what we call first inversion. Okay? Are there any questions? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move to a second inversion. So we have a root position, a first inversion, and a second inversion. Okay? So this is first inversion because my 3 is on the bottom instead of my 1. So then what happens if I take it a step further and now also put my 3 on the top? So now my 5 is on the bottom. My 1 or my root is in the middle, and my 3 is on the top. So we've changed the voicing of the same triad yet again. Sounds like this. Okay? Second inversion. And then I'm going to put that 3 on the bottom. Second inversion. And then I'm going to move this 1 from the top back down to the bottom. Root position. Sounds like this. Okay? One more time. Root position. First inversion with the 3 on the bottom. Second inversion with the 5 on the bottom. And then back to root position, but an octave higher, with the 1 on the bottom. Okay, so a lot of people will ask me when they're harmonizing or learning how to sing vocal harmony, you know, we teach triads. We start with the triad, we sing in thirds. And then people, I feel like it's often people who work with DAWs or digital audio workstations, they will notice that a lot of times when they're trying to create a vocal harmony, that sometimes it's sometimes it's the interval of a major third. And other times it's the interval of a minor third. And sometimes it's also a fourth. And it can really confuse people, like, where did that fourth come from? The musical interval of a perfect fourth. Because I'm playing a triad, right? So when I play it in root position, as you can see, right, we have 3 notes stacked pretty evenly on top of each other. But when we start inverting chords, all of a sudden they're not quite evenly spaced out. Can you see that? There's a fourth between my 5 and my 1 on the top. So all of a sudden we have a new interval that we need to ear train to learn in order to be able to formulate vocal harmonies on our own without learning a harmony part. This is some dense information, y'all. Are there any questions? Like, don't be shy. If there's questions as I'm speaking, like, drop them as your questions come, okay? Now, if we move to second inversion again, which means I take the 3 from the bottom and I move it to the top. So now my 5 is on the bottom, my 1 is in the middle, and my 3 is on the top. You notice that there happens to be a fourth, the interval of a fourth, between the 5 and the 1, and there's an interval of a third between the 1 and the 3, which sits on top. So when we do Ear Training Tuesday tomorrow, which I forget what time it's scheduled for, let's find out. we're going to be working on hearing the interval of perfect fourths because we've worked on major and minor thirds. Profile. Ear Training Tuesdays is tomorrow at 3. Yes, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to work on learning those, learning how to hear inversions, okay? So we're going to practice at home. All right, does everybody have a keyboard at their disposal, whether it's from an app or from virtualpiano.net? You're going to want one for this work. You're going to want to follow along. We're going to build, first thing first, we're going to build a new triad, and then we're going to invert it. Okay, so I'm going to have our next triad be built on an F, and then we can, I'll take suggestions from people in the comments. Okay, so if we're going to start on an F, okay, and we're going to build ourselves a major triad. So our F is our 1, our first note, our lowest note of our triad, okay? So we have a 1, and then there's a 3, and then there's a 5. 1, 3, 5. Do we remember how to find the 3? We use our half-step formula. Hey, Dangerous Dame, it's nice to see you. Yes, go grab your keyboard. Or an app. An app with a keyboard. Anything that has a keyboard on it will be helpful. I will wait a minute before we build this F. Make sure everybody came to class prepared today. I love it if while you get your keyboards out, you'd also double tap the screen or give me a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, and more free music education will come your way. All right, friends, so we're going to build a major triad starting on an F. Okay, so find an F on your keyboard. If your keyboard is not labeled with the note names, you're going to find 3 black keys in a row. And then you're going to look down to your left for the white key just to the left of the 3 black keys, okay? Welcome to an F, all right? Now we're going to build a major triad off of this F. So that means the F is our 1. Now remember, the formula is really important. We have to memorize the formula so that we can use it anywhere on the keyboard, okay? So instead of thinking about it by note name, try to think about it by number so that you can move it and shift it and apply it to other places on the keyboard. Does that make sense? So we're going to start with an F as our 1, and then we're going to count 4 half steps above this F to find our 3rd, okay? So when we start on the F becomes 0. We don't include the F. We don't include the 1 when we're counting. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I landed on this note here, which happens to be an A. And I started here, which happens to be an F. Cool, so there's my major 3rd. Now to finish the triad, to find the 5, right, we have a 1, we have a 3, and now we have to find our 5. We're going to start from the 3 and count 3 half steps above, okay? And remember, we don't include the note we're starting from. So this becomes 0, 1, 2, 3. Cool, so this is my 5. I just found my 5. I started from my 3, so that's my 3. And before I found my 3, I started from my 1. Listen to the major triad. If you're a singer and you did chorus, you might know this as do, mi, sol, okay? We're working in numbers because it's a little bit easier to communicate with instrumentalists in numbers, and it's a little bit easier to move things around on the piano with numbers. So 1, 3, 5. Now we're going to invert this major triad. Does anybody remember what the first inversion is? How do we build a first inversion? So when we're building an inversion, the notes do not change. You still have a 1, a 3, and a 5. Okay? The 1 is still the same note name. So like I chose F for my 1. So now every F on my keyboard becomes the 1 for this chord. Okay? And then we found our 3, our major 3, which was A. So now every A on the keyboard becomes our 3 for this major triad. And then we found our 5, which is our C. So every C on the keyboard can potentially be our 5. Does that make sense? So we have 1, 3, 5. When we invert the chord, we're taking the 1 from the bottom and we're stacking it on the top. So I have a low F here. I'm going to find my high F here. And now I have a 3, 5, 1. So the same pitches are still stacked to make a triad, but they're stacked in a different order. This is really dense information. How is everybody doing? Let me know in the comments. Do we need more clarity? Are there any questions? Any questions? Ned asks, can we use our ears and feeling for creating harmony instead of learning music theory? Yes, of course. There are many different ways to, viable ways to learn music. Music theory is a tool. It's not a rule. Right? There are plenty of amazing artists who work right by ear. What I find is that if you don't hear harmonies naturally, vocal harmonies naturally, or even, instrumental harmonies naturally, that learning triads, learning the music theory can help open up your ears, and it can also help with formulas that will build harmonies for you. Hi, Thea. Welcome. Nice to see you today. We're building inversions for major triads. Okay, so we've been building this F triad, and we are in the first inversion currently because our 3 is on the bottom, our 5 is in the middle, and our 1 is on top. Now remember how I said once you find, thank you for the roses, once you find where your 1, 3, and 5 are on the keyboard, remember the note names, then all of those notes on the keyboard become a possibility for voicing for this chord. Okay? Right? I can start playing this F1, A3, C5, A3, C5, F1, C5, F1, A3. And you do hear how they're all different voicings. They sound different, but they're the same chord, the same triad. Watching Finland lose to Canada live in ice hockey isn't fun, so I came here instead. Oh no. Sorry to hear that. Cool. So, one more time for review before we move away from F. We have F is our 1, A is our 3, C is our 5. Then to move into first inversion, our 3 stays on, our 3 becomes the bottom note, and the 1 that used to be the bottom note, we move to the top. So now the same triad is voiced 3, 5, 1 instead of 1, 3, 5. You see how it's a formula? It's just a pattern of numbers. Now if we're going to move into second inversion, I'm going to take the 3 that's currently on the bottom and I'm going to put that on the top. Okay? So now my 5 becomes the bottom, my 1 becomes the middle, and my 3 becomes the high note. This is second inversion, okay? And then if we were going to stack again, right, we're in second inversion here, so that means our 5 is on the bottom, 1 is in the middle, 3 is on the top. So what happens now if I take the 5 that's on the bottom and I stack that on top? Now I'm back to root position. Do you see how it's just a never-ending pattern? Now my 1 is on the bottom again, my 3 is in the middle, and my 5 is on the top. I could invert this again even, right? 1, 3, 5. Now I'm going to take my 1 and put it on the top again. 3, 5, 1. Okay, first inversion. Now I'm going to take my 3 and put it on the top again. 5, 1, 3, second inversion. Then I take the 1 and I put it on top again. 1, 3, 5. Do you see how it just loops, loops, loops? These are inversions. Ukigmo is asking, so it's impossible for chord inversion to have the same interval with the root chord. I'm not going to say it's definitively impossible because I don't have the brain power to like flip through every single chord progression possible, but I'm going to say generally yes, Ukigmo, that it's impossible for a triad, right? Not necessarily a chord, because chords can have multiple notes, more than 3 notes, but a triad is a chord that only has 3 notes. So if you are working with a triad, then the inversions will have different interval makeups than the root position. That is a fantastic question. Thank you for asking it. Let me describe that a little bit more in depth. So let's go back to the F chord that we were just working with. So everybody find an F again, okay? And build your root chord major triad, root position major triad, excuse me. There's so many words in music theory, and I think that that's part of why it feels like elitist and inaccessible, is because there's so much language and a lot of it is interchangeable and some of it is not. And it's really hard to navigate. I mean, I've been doing this for decades and I'm still constantly correcting myself with my language. So that's why I'm really insistent that if you have any questions about anything I say or something's not clear, to please drop it in the comments, okay? So we're building a root position major triad, and we started on F, and we already built this chord together, so we know that F is our 1, A is our 3, and C is our 5. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the intervals that are contained within these inversions of major triads. Okay, so when we built this major triad, you can pick any note on the keyboard because we're using formulas. So we decided to start here on an F as our 1. We counted 4 half steps because there are 4 half steps in the musical interval of a major third. And when we did that, we found that our 3 for our triad is this A here, okay? Now we know that in order to build the rest of the major triad, we need to stack a minor third on top of our 3. Okay, so we started on our 3, which is the A, and we counted 3 half steps to find our 5, which happens to be this C here, okay? So when building our root position major triad, we have a 1, a 3, a 5. The distance between the 1 and the 3 is a major third. The distance between the 1 and the 3 is the musical interval of a major third. The distance between the 3 and the 5 is a musical interval of a minor third. There is one less half step. Once again, the musical interval between the 3 and the 5 is a minor third. It only contains 3 half steps. So let's now invert this chord, okay? So what are we going to do to invert it? We're going to take the F that's on the bottom, our 1, and we're going to move it up to the top of the voicing of the triad. So our 3 is now on the bottom, our 5 is in the middle, and our 1 is on the top. But as you can see, simply just from how my hand is spaced out when I play this, that the intervals can't possibly be the same, right? The distance is different. This is why this is such a fantastic question. Thank you again for asking it. So as you can see, the distance between the 3 and the 5 has not changed. So this is still the musical interval of a minor third. But now look at the distance between the 5 and the 1. This is the musical interval of a perfect fourth. A perfect fourth contains, oh, I got to count my half steps actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. A perfect fourth contains 5 half steps. Okay. Major third. Yes. I was like, wait a minute, is that mathing? It is mathing. Thanks for being patient with me. Okay. So between the 1, between the 5 and the 1 is a perfect fourth, the musical interval of a perfect fourth. So if you were not able to find this F on top again because you don't really know a keyboard very well, another strategy to find this inversion would be to go to your 5, which happens to be the C, and to count 5 half steps to find a perfect fourth above. So we would count 5 half steps. Remember, we do not include the note we start on when we're using this formula. Very, very important. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we started here, and our bottom note for this inversion was our 3. So we have 3 to 5 is the musical interval of a minor third, or 3 half steps distance. And from 5 to 1 is the musical interval of a perfect fourth, or 5 half steps difference. Does that make sense? Drop it in the comments if you're with me. Let me know. Give me a like, double tap the screen, por favor. Let's do this one more time with our second inversion. Okay? Here's our first inversion. So what are we going to do for second inversion? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to take this 3 from the bottom and we're going to move it up to the top. Okay, so that means this A from the bottom, I'm going to put it on the top. All right. So now, as you can see, the musical intervals must be different once more because the shape of my hand is different. Okay? So you can think of musical intervals also in shapes, right? If your hand can memorize the shape easier than your brain can memorize the formula, it's a valid way, totally valid way, right? There are so many ways to learn music. Just like Ned asked if learning by ear is valid. Yup. Is learning by music theory valid? Yup. Is learning inversions by music theory valid? Yup. Is learning inversions through shapes also valid? Yup. And shapes work for piano and guitar. Okay. So it's a matter of breaking down how your brain can best absorb this information and learning it in that way, right? Everybody's brain works differently, and there's no shame in needing to learn in a different way than somebody else. And there's no shame in being new. So welcome. If this is all new information for you, I'm so glad you're here. It can be really confusing information too, so I'd love to just pause for a second and congratulate you all. Thank you for being here, and thank you for practicing neuroplasticity and learning something new and stretching out your mind. I think it's Really important skill. We're encouraged to do it as children, but not so much as adults. So allow me to encourage you, okay? So now if we're in second inversion here, my 5, which is the C, is on the bottom of the chord now. And my F, which was my 1, is in the middle, and my A, which was the 3, is on top. So we just worked out from our first inversion that the distance now between the 5 and the 1 is a perfect fourth. And we counted that musical interval of a perfect fourth utilizing 5 half steps, okay? So, and now we also know from when we built the chord in root position that the distance between the 1 and the 3 is a major third. It contains 4 half steps. Okay, so when we're stacking a second inversion interval, we have a perfect fourth on the bottom and a major third on the top. So, let's review all 3 positions and the intervals that they contain. So we started with our root position, and we decided our 1 was going to be on F. So we have from 1 to 3 is a major third. From 3 to 5 is a minor third. Let's go to first inversion by putting the 1 on the top of the chord. Now we have the 3 to 5, the minor third on the bottom, and the 5 to the 1, the perfect fourth, is on the top, okay? We're going to invert this one more time, and we're going to put the 5 on the bottom, the 1 in the middle, and the 3 on the top. So now our first interval is the perfect fourth, and sitting on top of the perfect fourth is the major third. If we invert it one last time, we're back to root position with the major third on the bottom and the minor third on top. Think of this like Legos. We have different kinds of Legos and they can all fit together, right? That's why I say we're building triads. I literally think of it like, I'm going to age myself here a little bit, but Fraggle Rock, the Deucers, y'all, like we're building those little structures. We're just happening to do it using music theory and pitches or notes instead of like actual building blocks and Legos. That was a lot of information again, so if there's any questions, drop them in the chat. Are inversions interchangeable when playing the piano? I'm not sure that I entirely understand the question, Thina, but let me attempt to answer it, and you can clarify if I didn't answer the question. So inversions are interchangeable so that when you are playing a triad, like we just played an F triad, whether you're playing it in root position, first position, or second inversion, they are all F chords. They're just different voicings. So they are interchangeable, and this is part of the artistry, the artist choice. Like for instance, when I'm on TikTok Live and I'm just like, I'm gonna try to play a song and read a chord chart and see if I can figure it out as we go. Who's got a song, right? And so let's say I'm gonna do what's a song everybody would know? Really popular song. I'm gonna say, I feel like the youths won't know Twist and Shout, but I'm gonna just pick Twist and Shout. Shake it a baby now, shake it a baby, twist and shout, twist and shout. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit of a complex answer, but I want to answer you holistically, so you can choose. Yes. I don't even know if interchangeable is a word. It is. It is. All right, twist and shout chords. Okay. So I just typed twist and shout chords into the piano, and I came up with a chord chart, which usually a popular one that if you Google might be Ultimate Guitar, or there's another one called like Chord something or another. Okay, so then you see here, I don't know if you can actually see, there are lyrics with letters above them, right? Lyrics with letters above them. YouTube is so laggy. I'm sorry, I'm just going to hold for a second and make sure YouTube can actually read. Yes, okay, so everybody can see. So, for example, this starts on a D chord, a D major triad. So going back to the keyboard, if I'm playing this on the piano or on the guitar, I can play a major triad in root position, okay? And then the next chord is a G and then an A. Okay, D, G, A. So here's the thing, Thina. This is where inversions are really handy for playing piano. Because if I'm just reading a chord chart and I want to move from a D to a G and I'm playing this song for the first time, I'm sight reading it. Now, if I'm only playing in root position, I have to go from a D. I have to go from a D all the way, move my hand all the way up here to go to a G. That's a lot of freaking work. So when you're learning how to play piano and read chord charts, what you would do is you ingrain this information with inversions so deeply that if I'm playing Shake It Up Baby now, and I need to go to a G now, I'm not going to move to a G in root position. The closest thing my hand is to is a G in second inversion. This is hard to do upside down. See how close this is? D chord, G chord. Okay? Versus a D in root position and then a G in root position, which means I have to move my whole hand. If I'm utilizing inversions as somebody who plays piano, it's a lot easier to do that. So it's a way of creating the same chords in different voicings in order to make it easier. Jeffrey says John Lennon, great vocals on Twist and Shout. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. So you can choose. Yes, that's what I meant. Yep, you do. You totally get to choose. There are certain songs that require specific voicing, but, you know, everything is ultimately subjective in music. Ned says, can you play us a short melody using those triads? Ned, do you mean like a chord progression, or do you mean just the inversions for one chord? Would you specify, or I can also do both. It's handy for me because I have small hands. I have small hands too. I did see what you did there. It's just hard to play upside down. My little brain doesn't work so great that way. How are we doing with time, my friends? I have some lessons to teach shortly, so I'm not sure how much time. Oh yeah, I have to hop off quite soon. So if you have any questions, drop them down now in the chat. Also, before I play a little melody to Ned's request, I accept tips. If you enjoyed this free information, on my link tree there is a tip button. You can go click on it and it'll give you access to my Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, all the things. Donations of any amount are welcome. They really help me keep this content free and available to everyone. And please check out the other offerings that I have this week. This is Music Theory Monday. Tomorrow we're going to learn ear training for the perfect fourths. Now that we understand why perfect fourths show up in harmony based on this inversion work, we're going to then continue our ear training. So you don't need one to have had the other, but if you miss any of these sessions, they are all uploaded on my YouTube, so you can go back and watch any lives that you missed. And if anything about building major triads today did not make sense to you, I want you to go to my Music Theory Monday playlist on YouTube, at Resonant and Harmony Nerds, same handle on all platforms, okay? You can also find my YouTube in my link tree. I want you to go to Music Theory Monday, and I want you to watch the one from 2 weeks ago on how to build major triads if you need more of a foundational level learning on how to build major triads. I just went off singing and dancing and forgot I'm supposed to incorporate the keyboard. That's funny. I hope you had a fantastic dance party. It's so good for our souls. All right. Dina says, I don't know how to play anything, but I find theory fascinating. Yeah, it is fascinating. And I mean, the cool thing about piano is I feel like it's really accessible because you have a layout in front of you and you literally just have to press buttons to make a sound, right? There is technique in how you hold your hands with piano, but Ned, you want to talk about learning by ear? I feel like piano makes that really accessible because you can just... Okay, so maybe you don't know you're playing like a diminished 7 chord 9 or whatever, but like it doesn't matter. Does it sound good to you, you know? But it also can matter. Maybe you really have a mathematical brain and you're like, I want to build a chord progression that has a 7th chord followed by a F diminished and a this and that and the other thing, you know? So, to answer your question, Ned, I'm going to play now. This is a piano exercise that is very common. I give this to my piano students. It's helpful for how we learn inversions. So I'm going to play it for you and explain to you what I'm playing as I'm playing. And then I will show you on the iPad just so you can see my hands. Also, in case there's anybody more tech savvy out there than me, I have been trying to figure out a way to get a keyboard like up here on a green screen so that I can like physically show you on both TikTok and YouTube, but I haven't been able to figure it out yet. I need a Gen Z friend to help my elder millennial self. Okay? So I'm going to use F since that was the last one that we all worked on together, okay? So here's my chord here's my major triad in root position. First inversion, second inversion, back to root, back to root. First, second. Now I'm gonna come back down. Second, first, root. Second, first, root. When I don't arpeggiate it, which means playing one note at a time going up and down, it sounds like this. Root, first, second, root. So can you hear how it's all the same chord? It's all the same triad. It's just what we call different voicings, different inversions of the same thing. So once again, here's the arpeggiated or single note by note version, root position. Okay, first inversion, second inversion, root position, first, second, coming back down, second inversion, first inversion, root position, second inversion, first inversion, root position. Okay? That's a pretty common piano exercise. Root, first, second, root, first, root. Okay, what does that look like on this keyboard? Let me make sure I'm set up properly so I can show you. Okay. All right, here we go. Root, 1, 3, 5. First, 3, 5, 1, 1. Second, 5, 3, 5, 1, 3. I'm sorry, my brain is starting to mush. All right, let's do that again since I messed it up. Okay. Root position, 1, 3, 5. First inversion, 3, 5, 1. Second inversion, 5, 1, 3. And back down, second inversion, 3, 1, 5. First inversion, 1, 5, 3. Root position, 5, 3, 1. Did that make sense? Do we have any questions on that? I do have to hop off. I have some lessons that I have to teach. So if there's any questions, please drop them now. Girl, I'm Gen Z, but I know nothing about TikTok, so you're good. Oh, that's funny. Thank you for the heart, Tina. I'm using my phone or computer in TikTok Studio. I think you need the Studio for it. Yeah, so the issue is I have Apple stuff, and TikTok Studio only works on Windows. I think I'm gonna have to buy a Windows machine. I know that I could put Windows on my Mac, but like I don't have the memory for that. This is an old computer. So I think I'm gonna have to like buy a cheap Windows machine just for streaming, especially for streaming. Oh, I should. If it's okay with you though, Thina, I know you're a gamer, so you probably know a lot more about like streaming and RAM and stuff like that. So I might hit you up on in DMs with a couple questions if that's okay with you. Thank you so much. You're so welcome, Dangerous Dame. I am such a nerd, hence my handle, Harmony Nerd. I love talking about this stuff. I love sharing this information. I think it's a lot more simple than people are led to believe. It is dense information, but I deeply believe that everyone is capable of learning it and absorbing it. And I think that a lot of times the issue is the teacher, not the student. I do think that there seems to be, and y'all can let me know how you feel about this in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions on it. But I feel that a lot of music education comes with this like elitist veil, right? Almost like they don't actually want you to understand, like only certain people with certain smarts get to understand this information. And, you know, in my opinion, that's the, you know, that means the teacher isn't very good. You know, the issue isn't the student's capability of learning. The issue is that the information is not being communicated in a digestible manner. So, okay, thank you, Dina. Thank you for being willing to help. So, this was so lovely. Friends, I've only been on YouTube a couple of weeks, and this has been the most engagement and activity that I've seen on YouTube. So, thank you to my new YouTube friends. I would love it if you would subscribe as a new YouTuber. It's a big help. So that's a way to support me. If you're not able to donate or send a tip from my link tree, is to subscribe, like, follow, share, you know, support in that way. Any support for the community is deeply appreciated. The best teachers teach you to teach yourself. I love it. Heck yeah. Cool. So thank you for spending Music Theory Monday with me. My name is Tara. I'm a professional singer based in New York City. Also a singing teacher and yoga teacher, and composer, songwriter. Tomorrow we will do Ear Training Tuesday. So if you want to ear train, that means learning how to internalize the musical intervals that exist within these inversions. We're going to practice that tomorrow. And this is a great tool for singers learning how to sing vocal harmony. It's also a great tool for instrumentalists. Ear training is really excellent for all sorts of musical education. So you can please join me tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for Ear Training Tuesday. If you can't make it live, the replay will be posted on my YouTube. Okay? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to squeeze a warm-up Wednesday in this week, so that will be a little more impromptu, but my free voice lesson Thursday will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. You can pre-register for that on TikTok Live in my profile or on YouTube. On my main page, there's a live button, and you can click the notify me button on YouTube to get a reminder when I go live. And then Friday at noon Eastern Time, we're doing Frequency Friday. And Frequency Fridays are new. We're still kind of like figuring out just exactly what a Frequency Friday is, but it's the soul piece of music making, confidence building, sharing our challenges, learning tricks and tools to help us get over nerves, and nervous system regulation, right? Music making is huge in nervous system regulation. I'm also very into like holistic health and wellness, as I'm very deep into my own healing journey, and I'm amidst a very intense nervous system healing course right now. It's fantastic. With Dana Doswell, who, if you aren't familiar with her work, I definitely recommend following her. Cool. Any last minute questions, friends? Jeffrey says, have a nice lesson. Thank you. Dangerous Dame says, I learned a lot. Thank you for explaining it in different ways. My pleasure. Looking Mo says, thank you. Thank you. You keep showing up, and I really appreciate your presence. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. Cool. I love too that like I'm in my YouTube infancy. And really, truly, my TikTok infancy as well. I've been doing this for a year, but I've only been doing these lives regularly for a little bit of time. So I love that you all are like my ground floor, like my ride or dies. And I think it's going to be really fun to see how, as I learn and grow, how everything kind of shifts and changes once I learn the technology. I hate that I couldn't get the green screen to work on YouTube, so y'all are just hanging out in my apartment with me. I'm sorry. It's such a mess. It's probably so distracting. But, you know, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I really appreciate you all coming along the journey, on the journey with me. So thank you for being part of the Harmony Nerd community. You can also join my email list if you'd like. There's a link in my link tree. You can click and sign up. I just need your name and email. The other fields are optional. So, and then you'll definitely stay in touch no matter what happens with TikTok in the US, and that'll be that. Yes, thank you everybody. Have an incredible Monday evening. Oh, it's Monday. I'm like, what year is it? What day is it? I don't know. And I'll see you tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time for Ear Training Tuesday. Mwah. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.